In today's video, we'll be learning about the file structure inside Daz Studio, specifically how the smart content and content library work. I will also be covering how to install third-party content inside Daz Studio and how to package your props for sale or sharing with other Daz Studio users.
Hi, I'm Palmy. Welcome back to my channel where I help you to master Daz Studio. Now, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on any cool videos that are going to help you on your journey. Having said that, let's get back to the tutorial right now.
Welcome to this tutorial regarding the content library inside Daz Studio. So this tutorial is really going to be focused around the actual file structure inside Daz Studio. How does this file structure work? Where is your content stored? And if you're going to be making props that are saleable, how to package your props properly so you can put them on the specific websites, Daz3D or Renderosity or wherever you wish to sell your products, how to zip those files, and what actual folders are the most important folders regarding that process. So let's focus on the smart content first, this tab here. So everything in the smart content here that's in this tab that has been categorized and collated under all these categories, like here, for example. These are all the things you've downloaded and installed from the Daz3D website. So anything you download from the Daz3D website you'll be able to find in the smart content folder. So if you go to the Daz3D store, anything you buy from here is going to be located in the smart content tab. So it automatically categorizes everything and puts everything inside that tab because it uses the metadata to do that. That's the metadata that comes with that prop. And that goes into the smart content folder, and you can find everything in there. It will categorize everything inside there. So the way it works is you buy something from the Daz3D store, and then when you buy it, you install it via the DIM. The DIM, D-I-M, is a Daz Install Manager. So this here is the Daz Install Manager. Now, as you can see, I have got 767 items that I've installed from the Daz 3D shop, from the Daz3D store. So these 767 items are all in my smart content, believe it or not. They're all in here. So you're probably thinking, where is this information stored? So if you're on the PC, if you've got a PC and using Daz Studio, it's stored in your C drive, your users, your public documents, my Daz3D library folder. So the 767 items that I have are all stored in this folder here. Now, the great thing about this is if you lose your hard drive, say my C drive kind of gets corrupted for whatever reason, all this stuff I can download again. So these 767 items, I don't need to back them up. It will automatically, when I do a fresh install of Daz Studio on on any computer, it will say, hey, ready to download 767 items because that's what you've purchased. So you don't need to worry about backing anything up in this particular folder. So that's really cool. So anything you have in here, you don't need to back anything up because it will automatically install when you have to do a reinstallation of Daz Studio. Alright, so that's how smart content works. It's very basic, straightforward. So anything basically you download from the Daz3D store, it will go into the smart content, and that makes it so much easier to search for any props you've purchased or any items or any backgrounds or any scenes, whatever you purchase, figures. It's so much easier to find in there because they're all located in the specific categories and automatically put in those categories for you. Alright, so let's move to the actual content library now. So here's the content library, and what we're going to focus on is this particular section here, the Daz Studio format section. We're not going to focus on Poser or any of these because as a beginner, because my tutorials are mainly focused towards beginners, you will be buying Daz Studio content and not Poser content. Even though Poser content is compatible with Daz Studio to some effect, you're going to be buying content that's specifically made for Daz Studio. So some of you might not have these folders here, and I'll explain what these folders are. These folders are just links basically. So this My Daz3D library, this actual folder, this link here is a link to this folder on my C drive, which is the exact same link to the smart content, where smart content gets all its data from. So the reason why we have content library here is so we can install the third-party content, and we can find that third-party content, because you won't be able to find that third-party content through smart content because it doesn't have the specific metadata relating to smart content and where to put it inside the categories. So most of the third-party content that you buy, say from CG Trader or from Renderosity, it doesn't have that third-party content. It doesn't have the metadata. So obviously you're not going to be able to find it in the smart content, which is why we use the content library. So now I'll explain to you why I've got these extra folders. So these extra folders here was my practice, actually, my library here, and this is my library here. That was me practicing when I first got Daz Studio to understand how the content library works. And the G drive here is actually a separate hard drive. So I'll show you that right now. So this G drive here, this one here, Daz Library, it's just a separate hard drive. It's like a 3 terabyte hard drive. And in this, I've got a content folder. And inside this content folder is all the third-party content that I've downloaded from this respective websites. So CG Trader, Render Hub, Renderosity. There are a few more that I use that are not coming to my mind right now. So all that content is in here. And the reason why my content is on a separate hard drive, the third-party content specifically, is so I can back that up to another hard drive, external hard drive. So if my main hard drive fails, my G drive, then I've got a copy of everything on external hard drive, and I can always copy that back. So it just makes it easier. So I don't need to go through all the specific third-party content that I've downloaded and put it back into the format that it was before. So everything is where it is basically. So it just makes it so much easier. So I highly recommend you kind of create a separate folder, a separate hard drive maybe, and then back that up monthly, which is what I do. Whether it's online, you back it up, or to external hard drive, do that. Especially for your third-party content, it just makes it so much easier. Okay, so now let's look at how we can install third-party content from a product that I just downloaded from the Renderosity store. So it's this product here, BUGAF. It's a Genesis 8 female character that somebody created, and I wanted that for my comic book. So I've obviously downloaded it and unzipped it. What I need to do now is I want to create a folder here just to show you how you can create your own folder. So I'm going to right click here and do add base directory. So I'm going to create it on my G drive. Here it is. I'm going to create a new folder. So we'll call it my Daz. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't need to be this. My Daz 3D library 2. Oops, can't spell library. There we go. There we go. Select the folder. Alright. And lo and behold, there it is. My Daz 3D library. Now at the moment, when we look inside it, there's nothing there. We're going to actually paste our copy our third-party content into this folder. So I'm going to go back to my G drive. There's my Daz 3D library 2 folder. Here's the content that I just downloaded. So when you download third-party content, you get these specific folders. Now the documentation folder isn't really required. You can copy it across. There's no problem with that. Only thing in the documentation folder is normally like a license letting you know that, hey, this is for commercial use or non-commercial use, whatever. Majority of the stuff is for commercial use anyway, so you're okay to go on that. And there's normally a README as well, so to let you know what's inside the product. So it tells you who's this created by, what it requires, what requirements you need for it to work, and everything that's inside the actual package. So that's why the documentation folder is not really required, but it is recommended to put something in there when you are creating a prop for sale. And all we do now, we just copy all those folders. So I'm going to copy all those folders. I'm going to go to my Daz 3D library folder 2, and I'm going to just paste it in there. There you go. Now I just need to refresh this. So refresh this, right click and do refresh. So now you can see we can expand it now. So when I expand this, you can see, hey, there's people. All right, going to people, Genesis 8 female, and characters, and there it is. There's my character. Now obviously when I double click on this, the character will load. I'm not going to load it now because the character will not have any clothes. I don't want to do that. And then obviously we can expand it even more, and you can see there's even more options that come with this character. We got the actual presets here. We've got the expression preset, and we've got some eye ray presets as well. The eyes, the lips, the makeup. So really, that's how simple it is to install third-party content. It's not as difficult as it looks. And obviously the more you get, so if you look at my G drive, it's like crazy big. It's just ridiculous, which is why I've got a 3 terabyte hard drive. If you go to the people here, let me find PC. Can't even find people. There's so much of people. Genesis 8 females. Genesis 8 female, and then characters. You can see I've got so many. It's ridiculous. What I've collated over the year and a bit that I've been doing Daz Studio. So it's very easy to move third-party content into Daz Studio. Now the really cool thing is, let's say if, hey, I don't want this anymore. I don't want this folder anymore. This link. Because remember, these are just links, okay? I don't want this folder anymore in my library. What do I need to do? So if I right click here and I do remove base directory, you probably think that you've lost all your data. You haven't actually, because when we go back to our folder here, it's still here, okay? My Daz 3D library 2 folder is still here. So Daz Studio doesn't actually delete anything here in these formats. It just removes the link. That's all it does. So you don't actually lose any data when you delete something from here. You right click, remove base directory, you don't lose anything. So now let's look at the folders before we move on to actually creating our prop and then actually packaging our prop for sale. So I just want to go through some of the important folders. So the most important folder that you're going to have is the data folder here. So when I double click on this, the way the data folder works is you have the data folder and then you have these folders here. Now you may recognize some of these folders. These folders are the vendor names. Okay, so the way the file structure works inside Daz Studio is you have the data folder followed by your vendor name. So all these are all vendor names here. Okay, so these are all vendor names. So if you have a look in the Daz Studio store, you will recognize some of these names. Dreamlight here, vendor name, yeah. Escher, if you know some of her clothing, she does a lot of clothing. Escher, yeah. So these are all vendor names here. So if, for example, if I clicked on Escher here, inside the vendor name, we have a product name. So you have a folder with your product name, whatever the name of your product is. If it's a red dress, you would write red dress. If it's a small cupboard, which we're going to do right now, very shortly, I would write small cupboard. That's my product name. So inside that folder, there's even more folders. So she's gone to a little bit more detail, like subcategories of the dress. So these are all the things related to the dress. So we got the bolero base, the clasps. So she's going into more detail. You can do that if you want to, you don't have to. So if you look in the bolero base here, you can see there's additional folders. Now all these additional folders, these two additional folders and this DZON support file is all created by Daz Studio. You don't need to worry about creating these actual files yourself. When you save it as a support asset in Daz Studio, these files are automatically created because it gets the data from the prop that you are saving. So you don't have to worry about actually making these folders yourself. Daz Studio does that for you. So let's go back. The other one I'll look at right now is the people one, because I think that's the one that's quite important as well. So in people, you have specific categories. So most of you will be having Genesis 8 male or female. Because you're new to Daz Studio, you'll probably be working with Genesis 8 characters. So for my poses prop that I created, Ultimate Yoga Poses, I had to create these specific folders myself when I had to upload it to Renderosity. So I created a people folder, I created a Genesis 8 female folder, then I created a poses folder, okay, and then I created my vendor name, my.co, and then I created another folder called Ultimate Yoga Poses, and then inside that was all the poses for the specific characters. So these are, again, you have the Genesis 8 female, you have the specific areas regarding that, so the characters, the clothing, the expressions, the hair, the materials. Materials are like the color of the lips, the nails, the makeup. That's what materials are. And then you've got the actual poses relating to that figure, and then you've obviously got props related to that figure. So these could be swords, weapons, things that they would be holding, all right, in their hands. So it could be something they're holding in their hands as a prop, like a mobile phone. It could be anything like that. So that's what this is related to inside the people folder. So if I went to the Genesis 8 male, it would have the same structure. Okay, it's got the exact same structure here, and that's how those folders work. And the next one that's really important is, can I just find it? Props folder. So that's where all the props go. Again, props followed by your vendor name. So for example, Age of Armor is a vendor name. Inside the product name, which is the antique safe, and then you've got the related information relating to that prop. Let's go back. And the last one is runtime. So runtime textures. This is where all your textures are stored. So again, you have your vendor name. So again, Age of Armor, vendor name, followed by the product name, and then all the textures associated with that. One thing I would recommend is make sure you have a unique texture name. So here, this is a very unique texture name, AOA_safe. The reason why that is because Daz Studio will get confused if you have a texture name that is exactly the same as somebody else's. You don't want that. You want to have a unique texture name. So something like this, AOA_safe. No, not many. It'd be very, very rare for somebody else to have the same texture name as that. And therefore, Daz Studio won't get confused when it loads up your prop for somebody else. It'll work as expected. The other thing as well with your texture names, make sure they make sense. So for example, AOA safe rusted normals. I expect when I double click on this, I expect to see a normal map. So when I double click on this, it is a normal map. So make sure you clearly label what each texture is. So if it's a normal map, say it's a normal map or normal, or add an N at the end of it. Make it very specific and clear what that texture file is. Cool. Okay, so we've been through all that. Now let's actually show you how to package your prop for sale, for example, or package it if you want to share it with somebody. So let me just get out of here and let me just go back here. All right. So this is a prop that I created a while ago, and the reason why I created this prop was just to see if I could create a prop. Now this prop was not created using 3D modeling. This was actually created in Daz Studio using primitives. So these are all primitives, believe it or not. These are just cubes. Imagine these are just cubes, and I resized them, and I just added some sub D to curve the edges, and I added like some really cool shaders. So the reason why it looks really good is because the shaders are really, really good. So I added some shaders and I made it look really awesome. So that's all it is. Anybody can make this. It's not difficult to make. So the first thing I want to show you is I just want to show you the surfaces. Let me just get out of IRA mode for a second. Let me just click on the top surface here. So if you have a look at the surface of the top here, if you look at the base color of the map, pay very close attention to where it's located. So as you can see, the location of the texture is in the right place. It's in my public folder, my documents, my Daz 3D library, the runtime folder, the textures folder, my vendor name, followed by the product name, cupboard, and the actual name of the texture. Now, obviously the texture name is not that great, but because I'm not selling this, it doesn't matter. But if you were selling this, make sure your texture name makes sense. So obviously I would put something like base color there. I'll probably put like BC at the end of that name of that texture there, just to show that everyone knows it's the base color. And the reason why it's very important to make sure your texture is in the first place, in the correct area, in the correct location, is because when you save the support asset, when you save it as a support asset, that's where it's going to look for those textures. So if your texture is not in the right place, when you go and sell your product or share your product with somebody else and they load it, they'll get error messages saying, I can't find this file, I can't find this file, because it's not in the correct place. So make sure that your textures are in the correct place before you actually package your prop. So double check that always before you package your prop. Okay, cool. So let's actually save this as a support asset then. So file, save as, support asset. It's a figure prop asset. Now it's saying, it's probably come up like this on yours. Now it's saying, where do you want to save it? So I'm in my Daz 3D library in my C drive. Mac users, if you are, obviously Mac users slightly different, but just make sure that you're in your default my Daz 3D library location, wherever that is on the Mac. I'm not too sure where it is, but I'm sure you guys know where that is, you Mac users out there. It's a prop, so I need to go into a prop folder. I need to go to my vendor name, so my.co, which I will probably change my vendor name. And then I need to create a folder. So I need to create a folder with my project name. I'll just call it cupboard. That's my project name. And now it's saying what file name should I give this. So I'm going to just call it cupboard load prop, something like that. Probably even put a hyphen on it if I wanted to. No, actually we'll leave it like that. Cupboard load prop. That's what I'm going to do. Save. All right. So this familiar panel comes up, this familiar dialog box. So the asset directory is the same asset directory, which is on the C drive, your default location. Your vendor name is automatically filled. Your product name is cupboard. The item name is small cupboard. I'm going to leave that as that is. You can change that. I'll change that actually. We'll change that to cupboard. There we go, because it is a cupboard. Now, the metadata here, you could fill this up if you want to. You don't have to. It's not a requirement. If you want the, when you go to your smart content, you see those like labels on those thumbnails. If you want the thumbnail label there, you can change that here. So because it's a prop, I want to choose prop here and do accept. So when I save this, it's going to have a picture of this here, of this image here with a label prop, with a green label prop. And I'll show you that. Make sure these three are ticked, and whether compressed files is ticked or not doesn't matter. That's up to you whether you want it ticked or not. It doesn't make a difference. It only makes a difference if you are going to edit that file using code. So don't worry about that. Click accept and it's saved. So I can delete that. Actually, I'll leave that there. Right, so you're probably thinking, where is it saved? All right, so again, my content library, Daz 3D library. I'm going to go to my props folder. All right, I'm going to go to my vendor name, my.co, and it should be in there, cupboard. There it is, click on there. And there's that prop there, that green label. So that's because we chose to choose that green label. There is prop. So when I delete this now, and I double click on it, it's going to load automatically. There it is. Okay, so that's how it's going to appear to someone else who downloads your product, who, if you were sharing something, a file with someone, that is how it would appear in their library. It would look like this. So let's actually package this up now. So let me open up both folders. Okay, let's put it side by side so you can see. Cool. So here I'm going to just create on my G drive. I'm just going to create a separate folder. I'm just call it cupboard. Cool. So inside my cupboard, which is my project name, or my product name rather, I'm going to need these folders. I'm going to need a data folder. So data, very important folder. Everything that in Daz Studio has a data folder. Okay. I'm also going to need a prop folder because it's a props. So props. It's saved in props, remember? And I'm going to need a runtime folder because that's where my textures are stored. Runtime. Cool. Okay, so let's go to the data folder on my C drive. I'm going to go to my where is it? My vendor name. I'm going to just double click on that and make sure it's in there. So there it is, cupboard. Cupboard again, product name. And as you can see, all those files are created. So when you save it as a support asset, all those files are created automatically. So you don't need to worry about individually creating those files. It's done. So all I need to do now is copy that across. So right click, copy, go to my data folder that I created on my G drive and paste it in here. There you go, job done. Next one, props. So I need to go to my props folder, go to props, go to my vendor name again. Right, gonna copy that. Go to my props folder here on my G drive. I'm gonna go inside and paste my vendor name in there. Just double check to make sure everything's there. There it is. All right, that's what we just created. Load prop. There it is. The picture there. Cool. And the last one, runtime. So in runtime, what I need to do, which I didn't do, is create a textures folder. So let me go inside runtime here on the G drive and create a textures folder. Cool. Open that textures folder on my G drive, go to my C drive and open the textures folder. So looking for my vendor name in here, and remember you got to create this folder yourself. So this vendor name folder, my.co, I created that myself. So I went into my Daz Studio library runtime on Windows textures folder in my Windows Explorer here, File Explorer here, sorry, and I created this folder myself. You've got to create this folder yourself. So all I need to do now is copy that across. All right, let's copy it across into the runtime textures folder on my G drive. Now, I don't want geo shells. I don't know why that's there. Cupboard, just make sure the textures are there. Cool. Okay. All right. And that is it, really. That's how you package your props. Now, obviously, what you would do here is you would zip that up. So, right-click, send to compressed zip file. And then you would just send that off to Daz 3D or Renderosity or wherever you are selling your products for them to check to make sure it works. And then once you know it works, then you can start to do the rest of the process of filling in the information regarding that prop. So link in the description in the box below for you to download this prop. Copy that prop to your Daz 3D library and double click on it. Go to your content library in Daz Studio and then double click on that and that content will work fine. And then you'll know that the process works and that's how you do it. Now obviously if you're making poses like I did, the ultimate yoga poses, you would need to have a P-pose folder and I'll show you that very quickly what that looks like for me when I created my ultimate yoga poses products. So I think it's in here. Product ideas, Renderosity, ultimate yoga poses. So there it is. So here it is. I've got a documentation folder here with a license and a readme. You need to have a license and a readme when you're putting it on Renderosity. It's just very basic. You can get that license and readme from Renderosity. They give you that information. You just need to fill in a few details. It's very easy. You go to here. So I've got people and then I've got gender female. See, it looks very familiar. And then the poses. And then I've got my vendor name, bad art. Yes, very bad. I know. It's just, don't ask. And then the name of the actual set, which is Ultimate Yoga Poses, the product. And then I've got the characters, the individual characters where I specifically made the poses to work. And I've also got gender state female, which is like just a general one. So if you didn't have one of these characters, you would just use gender state female and hopefully that would work for that character. And then inside there, you can see all the files. So these are all the files relating to the posing. And that's all it is if you want to create your poses set. So with the poses set, you don't need the data file. Because they're just poses. They don't need the data file at all. So that's a bit easier to do. This is why I recommend you start creating your first product with the poses because you don't need the extra additional information. You don't need the runtime textures. You don't need the data folder. You just need to create the poses. It's very easy to do.
So there you have it. That is the beginner's guide to the content library. Hopefully this tutorial has helped you to understand more about the file structure inside Daz Studio, and now you'll be able to create your own products and be able to store that wonderful third-party content from different websites such as CG Trader or Rusty, and you can really make use of that content inside Daz Studio. Now today we'll move on to comment of the week. So I'll put the comment of the week up here. Thank you Sunil for your comment of the week. Thank you very much for that. If you want to be featured for comment of the week, leave your comment down below as well, so we can have a look at that. If you like this video, hit that like button as well, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to check out these videos over here as well. I mean these videos over here, these videos over here as well. They're going to help you level up in Daz Studio, and I'll see you in next week's video.